What's up YouTube? Cliff here from the Sunday Drive. We are again working on my brother's 2016 Wrx, and today we're going to be showing you how to install a stealth trailer hitch. So welcome back to the channel, guys. We are once again working on the 2016 Wrx. We appreciate all the super guys that follow us. I know we don't regularly publish Wrx stuff, but we do have a ton of Wrx videos filmed and up on the channel. So if you haven't checked those out, be sure to go check them out. A lot of DIYs and maintenance videos up to help you guys out. But today is a stealth trailer hitch day. This is a torque lift central trailer hitch. My brother picked up. As always, we'll have the parts and any tools linked down in the description. We appreciate when you go through those links. It helps us out. So what makes this trailer hitch a stealth trailer hitch? Well, the receiver right here is going to be accessible through this back knockout. So when you want to use it, take the knockout out, you can access it. And when you don't put the knockout in, no one will be any the wiser that you have a trailer hitch. Unlike a lot of the other models that are going to sit down below here and actually be closer to the ground. So you're going to have less ground clearance. This one's going to sit up nice and high and not compromise the ground clearance on your car, especially if your Wrx is lowered. First, we're going to remove this black trim right here. It's held in by a whole bunch of push pins. So usually I'll take a flathead screwdriver and get them out. You can also use a pry tool like this, but the flathead screwdriver works pretty well. It's a two-part pin, so you pop the top out and separate it from the bottom, and that'll release the clips. There are 3 total. All right. With those pins removed, you're just going to lift straight up on this, and it will come right out. Now we're going to loosen up the pins that hold these side panels in. There are 3 on each side, 1, 2, and 3. So again, just a screwdriver. It's a 2-part connection, just like the other ones. So remove the top, and if the bottom doesn't come out with it, you can pull it out with the trim to get a grip on it, and then pop it out. And we got one more right here. There we go. And do the same on the other side. With those pins removed, your side panels here are going to be loose. Now we're not fully removing this, we're just pushing it out of the way. And that'll give us access to our taillights. To remove the light, you're going to want to first unplug the electrical connection. Just push in the tab on the top and then work that out. Okay, so that's unplugged. Now there is a retaining clip right here that goes on top of one of the screws. So we're just going to take a screwdriver and pop that off like so. And now there are 3 8mm nuts that hold the light in place. These are not tight at all, so just keep that in mind when you go to put this back on. You don't need to kill these. Now you want to make sure that you don't drop these because it will be very difficult to get them again if you do. Now there's a pinch connection up right here where you're gonna have to pinch on both sides and then push this out. But before doing that, I'm gonna kind of loosen the light up a little bit by just pushing it out a little bit. It's gonna have kind of like a seal if you haven't removed it before. It's holding it to the car a little bit. All right, so that's a little bit looser now. And now we have a little bit of wiggle room to work removing this connection right here. All right, so we're gonna push that all the way through. And that's just going to pull out. Watch your paint. Now there's 2 10mm to remove, one on the left and one on the right side of the bumper. On either fender, there's a push pin connection. Now on these, you actually are going to push the center in if it cooperates with you. And this one doesn't. Now, a lot of times these break because the center does not want to go in anymore, unfortunately. So I pushed it in as much as I can. It's normally flush, so it might be enough. Now, if you have mud flaps installed right down here, you are gonna have another connection to remove. We already removed this, and the mud flap is now loose from the back bumper. Now we have 3 push pins to remove right here on both sides, so I like hitting some screwdrivers in there because these can be pretty tight. And you're gonna pop the center pin up like that. I'm just gonna get these all loose to start. I have a very thin screwdriver starting it and then a thicker one for more leverage once I'm in there. Okay. Take a good bit of force, but they're heavier duty than that other pin that just snapped. With those started, a trim tool like this really helps so you can get a wide grip on it. Because these are really, there's a lot of dirt that gets on them and makes them not really want to work as well as they should. You can see it's a pretty beefy clip right there that you're pulling out. All right, and then we have 2 more clips right in the center. Underneath the car, behind the rear diffuser, are 2 more of those clips, same style. Pop out the center, and then remove the whole thing. Now to remove the bumper, you ideally want to have 2 people. The first step is going to be to pop each fender out like this. There's a whole bunch of body clips that hold it in place. There's all these clips right here on the bumper that go into this black piece on the car. So you're just gonna pull that out. It can take a little force, it can be scary, there'll be some sounds, but that's how you get it out. With your side released, you're gonna wanna push down on the black plastic here. There's another piece that the bumper's clipped into behind where the taillights were, and just pull the bumper out, all right? Now this last clip usually doesn't wanna pop out right away. So if you take like a pry tool like this, you can lift the bumper up over that clip. If it wants to go eventually, it's pretty snug. For some reason, that last little clip is fighting me. Holding it, Chris, because it might pop. There it goes. All right. All right, so there are some clips here in the center that might fight you a little bit. You can take a trim tool that's like this, if you want, and reach down behind and kind of lift up or pry out on the bumper. But we should be able to pull it off now. There it goes. All right. Next thing we're gonna do is drop down the exhaust. Now you'll notice we do not have a factory exhaust here. This is an aftermarket AWE exhaust. If you wanna know how to install it, we do have a full guide with sound clips up on the channel. But what we're gonna do is release the hangers. There's 2 at the back, 1 by each muffler tip. And there is another hanger up in this area right here. And those hangers will be the same whether you're a stock exhaust or aftermarket like we are. Right now we have the exhaust held up by a strap just so that it won't fall down. And you don't want it to sag too much because you don't want to put any strain on the downpipe up towards the front or anything, but just to add a little bit of clearance. Now if you take a hanger removal tool like this, and we'll have this in the description, it is extremely helpful for doing this. So what we're gonna do is go up here and push the grommet off. And I put some silicone paste on there. That really helps a lot. There are 2 more hangers on the outside here I forgot about. So all the way up here. So we're gonna release those. Put a little silicone paste on them. Again, just so it can come out. And the last one right here. All right. Just let that sit. And again, you don't want to drop it too much because you don't want to put strain on the front end of the exhaust. Next, we need to pull off the crash bar. It's held in by 2 nuts and 4 bolts, 3 on each side. We're gonna drop the heat shield here. It's held in by 4 10mm bolts.
It's possible.
So now you're gonna cut out this rectangular part right here, just using some snips, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. All right, so we've trimmed this up, or my brother did, and that's about what you wanna cut off of it. 4 grommets right here, and we're gonna pop out the first one and the last one. All right, so now you're gonna take this star locking washer, not exactly sure the name of it, put that onto your bolt, and then this plate, and we're gonna fish these bolts into those holes where the grommets were we just removed. And they provide this cool little fishing line in here that actually threads onto the bolt, like so. And then what you're gonna do is fish the other end of this line down your frame rail and down into that back hole. The front one you can actually reach and just put the bolt through, but the back one is not quite so easily reached. All right, so we're through. Then you're gonna just pull that through. I caught on something. And you wanna get underneath? And it's through, and then just unthread your fishing line and use it on the other bolt. Then the back one's nice and easy to get to. Just drop it in. So now we're putting the heat shield back up. You're gonna reinstall those 4 10mm bolts. And this is what it looks like with a cutout. Probably don't actually need to cut out quite that much, but that's what we did. You now have access to that back bolt. Now we're ready to put up the trailer hitch. Between the hitch and the frame of the car, you're gonna put a washer to space it out from the frame. And then the hitch is gonna go on, and then you're gonna put another big washer, then you're gonna put a locking washer, and lastly, the nut. Other side of that hanger. Yep. Go back. Don't let it rest on the exhaust. All right, now we're gonna start going up like there. Okay, good. And then once he has those 2 washers in, just push your side like up all the way. And then just hold it there. So now we're just gonna snug up these 19mm bolts, but we're gonna leave it a little bit loose so that we can adjust it after the bumper is test fitted to make sure that the hitch is lining up in the center of the knockout on the rear diffuser. Now, the back one for us is spinning. The frame rail is wider than the rectangular plate that's in there. Now, possibly if the weight of the hitch was on it, that might help draw the nut up and keep the bolt from spinning. However, in our case, that's not working, so we happen to have a long breaker bar like this. Any breaker bar will do. And then you're just gonna need a 19mm either socket. I didn't have a shallow 19, but I had this crow's foot in the 19. So we're gonna stick that back in there and get that on the bolt and hold it while we tighten it up from the bottom. Now, one thing I want to note about this receiver, when you're going to pick out either a bike rack or a trailer hitch that you're going to install in here, you want to make sure that it's not too deep because it is going to bottom out against the trunk here. And you also need to make sure that it's going to go out far enough past the bumper. So eTrailer on their website has all those measurements spec'd out, so you can check those out to make sure that you're going to get the right size either hitch or bike rack, or like I said, whatever you're going to put on here, that it will clear the bumper and also not go too deep that it won't fit into here. You're also going to want to make sure that it's the right size where the pin is going to line up, because you aren't going to have the extra leeway to push it in further like you would with most receivers. So with this one, when you pick out your hitch, bike rack, you have to make sure that these holes are going to line. And eTrailer has all those measurements for you up on their site, and I'll be sure to have that link down in the description. Now, before reinstalling your back bumper, we are going to need to trim up a little bit of the plastic here because it's going to interfere with the receiver on the hitch. So we're going to want to pop the knockout out like so. And then what we're going to want to do is trim all of this out, but you want to make sure that you leave enough that these two bottom clips on the knockout will be able to grab in. So you want to trim close, but not all the way. And that way you'll still be able to reinstall the knockout when you're not using the hitch. So we ended up cutting a little bit more off of this and making this part flush actually, so that when the diffuser or when something is in the receiver, it's not going to rest on the diffuser. And you'll notice on the bottom of this, it's just clips that need to grab onto the back here. So all we need to do, well, let me go in from the outside, is have that grab like that, and that'll still grab because it just needs to pull on the bottom so that it can't pull straight out. Now, when you reinstall the bumper, one thing to note, you might not want to reinstall all the clips on the bottom. That way you can reach up underneath, press in these top two, and have that come out. If these are all installed, you're probably going to need to remove those each time in order to remove this cover piece. All right, guys, so we're going to finish putting the car together, but that's all you need to know to get this hitch installed. So definitely make sure you dry fit the bumper before you put everything back in case you need to adjust it at all to the left or right. But it does pretty much sit where it wants to, so there's not a lot of play, and as you saw, it was lined up in the middle, so we're good to go. Gonna finish putting this car back together. If you guys have any comments or questions, definitely leave them down in the descriptions, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.